Hello, everyone. How is everyone? It's Katie Halper from The Katie Halper Show. If it's a Wednesday, sometime after 6 p.m. on WBAI, you can hear The Katie Halper Show. And I'm here, as usual, with Gabe Pacheco.
That's right. I'm here in the building. Happy to see you today.
Happy to see you.
What's going on, Reggie?
Hello there. Hello, Gabe. Hello, Katie. What's up?
What's
guys?
up?
What's up, guys?
Gabe is not only in the building, he's in the studio with us.
That's correct. I'm just sitting here sipping on my iced coffee. I'm wearing a Hawaiian t-shirt. Got my Warby Parker glasses on, enjoying life.
It's true. Usually you
That's
guys...
very hipster.
Thank you. That's right. I came here all the way from Williamsburg today.
Wow.
To downtown Brooklyn to be part of this amazing show on WBAI Radio.
What you guys don't know is that usually Gabe and I are on separate floors of the same building. That's how we do the radio show.
Just Skyping.
Just Skype it. Yeah, we just like to keep it
Remote.
Keep it remote. Boundaries. We have a great show for you guys today. It's a little bit of an emotional period because it's our first show ever.
Oh.
You know what I'm going to say, right?
I have an inkling.
Post-apocalypse. This is our first post-apocalyptic show, and I think we all know what I mean, by which I mean Bernie Sanders is no longer in the running.
You mean he's no longer a viable presidential candidate?
Right. He's officially out of the race.
He wasn't able to overcome the hurdle of the superdelegates and the established Democratic political party apparatus.
No, I love when people are like, you know what he did? He should have used this. If he had done this in Connecticut, if he had just gone to that one church in Connecticut, as if it was like one thing that he did as opposed to a systemic boundary, that hurdle that he could never have gotten over. But he came really close.
Do you mean that the candidate campaigning for universal health care and free college didn't make it?
No, but he did. He made it further than a lot of people thought he would, right? He gave a speech in which he endorsed Hillary Clinton. And, we're processing it. I'm in a dark place kind of right now.
I guess I'm a little bit more of a pessimist, so I woke up with a clear conscience.
It's true. You are. Gabe you're not as disappointed because your life is more.
No, I lived through two Reagans and then a George Bush the first, and then.
I'm only a little younger than you.
So, Katie, your feelings about Bernie endorsing Hillary is more something like that?
Yeah, or more tragic, less victorious.
Yeah.
We have let's see. Oh, this is good. This
is the Imperial March.
This is the Darth Vader theme song.
You're
so
right.
this is pretty nefarious.
No,
it might be
nefarious.
triumphant,
no,
but it's
not. You're right, but that's
Yeah.
my feeling about maybe Hillary moving forward, not as much as Bernie endorsing her.
Well, kissing the ring, for the lack of a better term.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we can talk about whether or not it was justified.
Well,
homicide of my dreams. Just kidding. Justified homicide of all of our dreams. Just kidding. Trump is worse than Hillary. I have to keep reminding myself of that. Trump is worse than Hillary. Trump is worse than Hillary. Trump is worse than Hillary. Trump is worse than Hillary.
And also, don't forget to not vote based on fear.
I tell you what, Katie, I spent a week in Wyoming, a week away from Facebook, a week away from Twitter, a week away from the television, and Reggie just brought up fear, and the only thing I feared for that whole week was getting between a grizzly mother and her cubs, because it is grizzly feasting season right now, and the elks are all calving, they're all having their little kids, and the grizzlies are coming down to the elk refuge outside of Jackson Hole, and they're just feasting on
That's real. That's real fear. That's real fear.
You know, and so that's the thing. Bear mace, you only have a 4-second burst of bear mace, so you're supposed to count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then you stop. And if the bear hasn't stopped and run away, you've got one more blast, one more burst.
Wow!
Don't squirt it all out at once, though. Don't do all 4 seconds at once.
I won't. Wow. So how do we apply this to the elections?
Oh, I was just talking about my, fear.
Fear, got it.
Fear in the media, fear in real life.
Well, we're not only are we gonna do this kind of emotional processing that we're already doing, but we're gonna speak to some guests who are gonna help us and shed some light on this incident. First, in our first half, we're gonna be talking to Amber Ali Frost, who is a writer living in Brooklyn. By way of Indiana, she's a longtime member of the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, and she teaches writing at NYU. And she also contributed to a book on Rosa Luxemburg. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to be talking to Josh Fox and Nomiki Konst. They're two Bernie Sanders surrogates. They fought the good fight this entire time. They're still fighting the good fight. And they actually were in Orlando pushing for really great reforms to the Democratic platform to make it more progressive. Now, of course, the Democratic platform has been drafted, has been written, and it has to be ratified now at the DNC in Philadelphia. And I just want to give big shout outs to people who criticize Bernie Sanders for not dropping out as he made the platform more progressive and moved it to the left. And just a rule of thumb is that if you complained about his moving it to the left, you're not actually progressive. Also want to say something else, which is that people need to pick a lane, commit to a side, because what you have people online like Michael Cohen, who goes by the Twitter handle Speech Boy, and he threw a fit about Bernie's massive ego, which is funny because it was like a total projection. He literally said he's throwing a tantrum because of his massive ego, and that's why he wanted to make the Democratic platform more progressive, which is, yeah, that sounds like a reasonable explanation.
So it's like a crybaby trying to make the world better.
Like
only crybabies want to make the world better.
Exactly,
because
yeah.
it's their ego is what they...
Right, exactly.
His ego was leading him to campaign for universal health care.
Exactly. Like Martin Luther King, egomaniac, right? I mean, it's the same, yeah. So we're going to talk about that. And that's just a question of being, like, I think we should start a segment which is, like, how to be a better shill, where we just tell people how to make their arguments better.
Who is this guy, by the way?
Michael Cohen.
Is he important in the real world or just on Twitter?
That's the thing. I mean, I think he's not. He used to write places, and he fancies himself an expert on lots of things. But I like this sound, this background. By the way, it's kind of a nice ambient noise. We're going to start shredding documents in about 5 minutes, so hold on to your seat for that.
The Ollie North segment?
Yeah, exactly. Ollie North segment. You know what? Let's bring our first guest on. Unlike the process that we're hearing right now, this woman is not copyable. She's inimitable. She's unique.
A one of a kind.
One of a kind. Welcome to the table, Amber Ali Frost. I like that. We should start welcoming people like that. Oh, I like it. Amber, thank you for coming. Hi.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to say you are not this person, but Michael Cohen.
He's Speech Boy, right?
He's Speech Boy, yeah.
Someday he'll be Speech Man.
You know what?
When he has his speech mitzvah.
That's such a good call. And it reminds me of the Britney Spears song about not quite a woman, right? Not a girl, but yeah.
I'm not a girl.
That's a great point. Yeah, he's a columnist at the Boston Globe, World Politics Review, author, and American Maelstrom. That's his opus that no one's read.
Right.
But he's one of my favorite people on Twitter because he really is a self-parody who really accused Bernie Sanders of throwing a tantrum over the Democratic platform. And the way he did this, Speech Boy, Michael Cohen, was that he threw a tantrum over Bernie Sanders not dropping out. And attribute it to his ego. And the big thing that drives me crazy, like the thing that Hillary defenders or Bernie attackers or Bernie haters, I should say, don't get is that they can't both say that the Democratic platform is unimportant and irrelevant and symbolic and then argue that he's wrong to push it to the left. Like,
Right.
Which is it? And why are Hillary people fighting tooth and nail against saying we oppose the TPP, which they did over the weekend? So I want everyone to know these are how brave lots of the DNC is. And I have to say this about Hillary and the DNC. Watching the platform meetings reminded me that Hillary really is not the DNC is just horrible.
Right.
So in a way, it's kind of like a great endorsement of her because by foil, she's looking pretty good.
Sure, comparatively.
Right? Yeah. So they voted against, despite the amazing speeches from Ben Jealous, former head of the NAACP, Josh Fox about fracking. It was great to see the Hillary delegates and Hillary appointees to the platform literally refuse to say out loud, we oppose TPP. They wouldn't say it. And my favorite point, though, of the whole thing was when Bernie's people were trying to pass single-payer health, and a former Arkansas senator, Mark Pryor.
I'm Mark Pryor from Arkansas.
Literally said,
And I understand the appeal of a single-payer system. I really do. A lot of economists think that's the best way to go. A lot of healthcare people think that's the best way to go.
but here's the thing.
But when you look at what President Obama passed, in the Affordable Care Act. It was the single greatest legislative accomplishment in a generation. And what this amendment says is, you know what, President Obama? That great accomplishment just isn't good enough. We're going to reject that, and the Democratic Party wants to do something else. I don't want to do that to our president. I do not want to do that to our president.
And I don't want to do that to my president.
Right. So it's like, look, he got an honorable mention on this, but he did really good. It was like really good. Like he tried really hard for that C+. So
Yeah, it was literally like, I like President
It would
Obama.
really be insulting to make any major political wins to the people who failed at it prior.
Right.
I mean...
No pun intended. Prior. No, but it's also like, 30 million people are uninsured. We could insure them, but I don't want to diss Obama.
Can we pick up the flag where he dropped it and then keep moving it forward?
I know. It's really, you don't have to be a PR genius to figure out how to do that, right?
Well, also, I think people are sort of realizing that the compromise on healthcare has had some horrible results and left a lot of people in a really terrible situation. I mean, I benefited from it because of the Medicaid expansion, but if you're in the middle, there's still this awful range of income to be in where it's just not actually helpful to you. Your overhead is extremely high. It doesn't cover lots of things. It's really easy to get jerked around by insurance companies. I mean, it's everyone has a horror story,
right,
with Obamacare. So there's no reason why you couldn't move forward and be like, well, we tried this. Now let's do what everyone else is doing in the world, in the developed, world.
Right.
And in some undeveloped countries. There are countries without, incredibly developed economies that still have socialized health care.
Yeah, my theory about this stuff is that the Hillary supporters have this residual lingering guilt over race baiting and Muslim baiting Obama. And so we now have to suffer and deprive people of health care because they're still working through their issues from 2008 when they were so terrible to Obama.
That was the lack of mentioning that her campaigning in 2008 has been it's really surreal. It's incredibly surreal. I think they think that people aren't going to remember
the RFK
tactic.
reference.
They're so racist.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand how people don't remember it, but apparently they don't. So let's talk a little bit about your thoughts on Bernie Sanders, because I know, Amber, you've been writing a lot about this, and you are a socialist feminist, and you've been attacked as a tool of the right wing because you're critical of Hillary.
I'm a brocialist or whatever.
High five.
Yeah. Go team.
Go team.
Well, I mean, as soon as Bernie announced, I knew that he was probably not going to win. You try not to say die while you're actually campaigning, but, this was always the most likely outcome. And Bernie is, he's still kind of a Cold War social democrat. He's still more scared of the Republicans than he is of neoliberalism. I knew at some point he was going to endorse Hillary. We've all known that. It's strange because a lot of people seem to feel very betrayed by it, which, I mean, you had to see this coming at some point. I'm still not going to be voting for Hillary, obviously, and I live in New York. It's not like there's any reason for me to do it. But mostly I'm just really pleased at what he's sort of inspired and by how invigorated people are. I just think there's still a lot to be capitalized off of that energy.
Right. Would you vote for Hillary if you were in a...
No, I still wouldn't.
You wouldn't. Interesting. But
there's a really good article or a blog post written by a guy. He writes under a pseudonym. He's a journalist. He writes under Carl Bayer, and I believe it's called, Chin Up. And basically, his point is that leftists lose. I mean, we lose more than we win, and that's what happens. Mm-hmm. That's our lot, and it's because we're fighting power. And that's the dialectic. We're going to lose a lot before we win once. So I understand feeling, a bit put out, feeling sad and maybe angry. So, mourn, rage, but also suck it up. There's a lot of work to do right now.
And what are you thinking moving forward needs to happen? What is the work that needs to be done?
Well, I mean, we're in sort of a prime situation, I think, for a lot of different programmatic work. Obviously, we need to, by we, I mean sort of the generalized left or whatever, but it's a really good moment maybe to start talking about, disarming the police. That's a really good start, I think. Fighting neoliberalism is always on the table. Fighting austerity is always on the table, but we want to make sure that we're not just treading water. I think we can start to talk about programs. We don't need a radical president to fight for socialized health care. We don't need that.
So what does need to happen? I'm not being I don't even know. I feel like I'm at a loss right now because I have to step back from. I'm on Twitter too much. So for me, the biggest enemies, and I read the news too much and the media. So for me, the biggest enemies are the people who lied about Bernie Sanders. And I know it's hard for. Here's the truth. Like,
I will not be forgetting that.
Right? Can we make a list? Can we have a list?
Not forget about
I think
that.
we should hold our votes hostage. I'm not kidding. I think we should. Those people.
No, we were not going to fall in line.
Who will? Hold on one second. We just want to make sure that the copy room isn't actually mic'd, because I think maybe we left a mic in there by accident.
I'm sorry. I just really want to make all these copies.
Oh no. Yeah, it's yeah. I think Peter Dow and David Brock are actually in the copy room right now.
Hillary.
Yeah, they're flying for Hillary. They're trying to sabotage this. But what I think we should demand apologies from certain people. And certain publications, like the Washington Post, the New York Times, the people who talked about the chairs being thrown, Peter Dow, who else? Who am I missing? I really think we should
make demands, but I do not think. I think you'll come up disappointed. They're not going to apologize.
Right, they won't apologize. Can they at least be? Then they won't be discredited.
I think a lot of them have been discredited. I've actually been very encouraged, and this is kind of a global thing at this point. The same thing is happening in the UK right now. They're trying to, overthrow Corbyn within the Labour Party.
Right.
Even though Corbyn is the only reason people are excited about the Labour Party right now.
Right.
And they're saying, well, they're having demands for civility. They made a petition that was like comradely behavior, and like the woman who they're saying is going to be the next Margaret Thatcher signed it. I mean, she's a Tory,
right?
So of course she wants everyone to fall in line behind this, very mushy Labour Party,
right? Mushy Labour Party, I like
that. It's a global thing that's going on. People are splitting,
right.
And
I feel like
it's great.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I used to always say because I identify as left, but I worked with liberals a lot, and I was like, whatever. When the revolution comes, we'll be on different sides, but we have to oppose the Iraq War, blah blah blah.
Sure.
And I guess the revolution has come.
The anti-war movement in a while, though.
Well, no, it's true. When Bush was doing it, they were, but then when Obama. But it is. I guess it's an exciting time when Bernie says that political revolution. He's right, because according to my timeline, at least, that's when this difference was going to kind of emerge.
Yeah. I think it's great, and say what you will for I'm not an accelerationist by any means. I don't think things need to get worse before they get better, but a Hillary Clinton presidency will be the last nail in the coffin of a certain kind of identity politics.
Oh, great.
I mean, we had Obama as a president, and it did not trickle down to improve the lives of Black Americans.
Right.
I think women are going to quickly figure out that a female president isn't going to trickle down to, it's not going to close the wage gap or anything. We're not going to get, parental leave. That'll be it. This is going to disabuse a lot of people of sort of myths that they have about representation and what it can accomplish.
Right. That's exciting. So Nina Turner or Ben Jealous, I would like either of them to be president. I'm just going to throw that out there next term. So let's talk a little bit about this opus, We Are the Left, that was published on Medium.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that.
And Medium, by the way, is where every single shill for Hillary has a platform.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite posts have been written on Medium, like that one by Robin Alperstein, who wrote about how Bernie lost her. And, of course, she's a corporate lawyer who defends hedge funds, so I don't think he ever had her.
Yeah.
But this one, and you mentioned Carl Bayer, friend of the show, got to have him on. We will have him on very soon. He writes at Carl Beijer, that's how you spell his last name, so carlbayer.com. He wrote about this this open letter. He writes that in an open letter posted today that I won't bother linking to, a clique of social media personalities have rehearsed a familiar list of accusations against the left. Hi, thank you so much, Carl Bayer. Thank you for coming.
How you doing?
Good, you?
Glad to be here. Good. I'm doing well.
Finally, yeah, we gave you a shout out on the show yesterday, and we just felt like we need to have you come in and lay the groundwork better than I was able to by reading a couple sentences of your very good piece on this issue of We Are the Left.
This letter rolls out. It's called An Open Letter on Identity Politics to and from the Left. And it has this whole list at the end of basically almost entirely media types and not coincidentally all Clinton supporters for the most part who signed this. And you look through here, and what this letter, it's kind of a mess. It's hard to figure out what they're actually getting at. But what they generally do is they go through their usual laundry list of grievances that they have with various people just on social media. And they put this in some kind of grand historical context. So they talk about, Firestone in 68 and Rivera in 73 and stuff like that. And they're, I guess, building some kind of case that there's problems in the left that happen in history and that are still going on. And then they make a list of demands on the left. And it's really bizarre because it's a sort of a weird series of mostly unrelated anecdotes, and it's kind of hard to find a common thread. And then a lot of the stories they tell are really gross and obvious misrepresentations of what actually happened. So like the piece I wrote yesterday, I talked about this old incident where somebody sent Sarah Jeong, who is another Twitter personality, a message basically making some kind of threat. And ever since then, for the following 6-7 months, both Jeong and Sadie Doyle, who is in the middle of this and who evidently actually wrote this letter, have tried to hang that threat on me and Matt Bruenig. They kind of shift around in their explanations. So when Sadie is being lazy about it, she'll just say, Matt Bruenig coordinated this. And then when somebody is sort of scrutinizing her more closely, she'll say, he inspired it or whatever. But anyway, so I just looked into this incident. It really only took a couple minutes. And what I found out is this guy is a serial harasser of women forever. He's a sort of universal pariah. Nobody that I know or in any of my networks or any of Matt's networks get along with this guy. They actively criticize him for harassing women. There is no plausible way to say that this guy was somehow under some kind of peer pressure or whatever their argument was to do this to Sadie Doyle. And again, this is all stuff I found out in a matter of minutes. But repeatedly over the last 6 months, both of these women have repeated this lie that we are somehow involved. It was actually in Sadie Doyle's letter that she used to try to get Matt Bruenig fired. It was alluded to in a tweet where a guy tried to get me fired from the Baltimore Post-Examiner, and they said no. And this has been ongoing. And, I pointed this out. We, of course, have not received any apology for this. We never will. We're not expecting one.
Why not? Okay, well,
Real temptation here is to blow this up and pretend like it's some grand statement about the state of American political discourse and all that. And that's what they try to do with all these historical parallels and stuff like that. But that's not what any of this is about. This is a very small clique of, mostly New York and DC based media folks who all know each other. So again, like there are sort of little personal importances. And I think that maybe you can extrapolate grand conclusions. Like, for example, I think it's pretty clear that there's a very strong remaining institutional anti-communist sentiment that's out there. This is clearly coming from the top, and it's clearly ingrained in the system, and it's something that the radical left is going to be fighting against for the foreseeable future. But it's not, these are kind of symptoms of deeper problems.
Right.
I think that you can sort of read some conclusions out of this and get some symptoms. So here's today, actually, right now, we have a good example that I think we can draw a larger conclusion from. What's happening even as we speak is this article at one point, it mentions two of the black activists who showed up at it was a Social Security rally that Bernie Sanders was speaking at. It wasn't actually a Sanders rally. And they showed up, and among other things, they demanded 4.5 minutes of silence. They're involved in Black Lives Matter. And so they wrote about this in the article. And an interesting thing is they didn't talk to either of these women before they put them in there. And one of them, Marissa Johnson, evidently has some serious problems with this article. So just a simple example.
The piece, with the We Are the Left piece, yeah.
Yeah. So a simple example, originally they called them women of color. And she's like, we aren't women of color, we're black women. And then in another conversation, she was talking to somebody else and she said, yeah, this whole thing kind of reeks of white feminism is what she calls it, which is what it is. And then today, what's happening is evidently for some reason that I cannot fathom, the writers of this letter thought it would be a good idea to just add her to the signatories without her permission. And she saw this, she's furious, and going in on Sadie Doyle about it. She's saying right now, I did not co-sign this, I did not sign it. It doesn't represent my political views. I need to understand why y'all use me so horribly and then added me to the list. This, to me, is just an absolutely outrageous thing. But I think that what we can draw from it is we have this set of sort of liberal Clintonites who won a very significant percentage of black voters who actually voted. It was between 70 or 75%. They did not actually win a significant percentage of black Americans. They won about 12.5% of all eligible black Americans. So they don't speak for, black people or black America at all, but they evidently think they do. And they evidently feel really comfortable with just signing their names to stuff. And I think that I don't think that's accidental here. I think we're seeing a symptom of a problem where liberal Democrats feel like they own black voters to a certain extent, even though they really don't have that much support. It's trivial. It's 12.5%.
Anyway, the point is that the same messages are being repeated again and again. And Carl Bayer reveals all of this. And he has revealed that it has been confirmed that Sadie Doyle actually wrote it. And as he says, which of course makes perfect sense, and she's just rehearsing the exact same smears that she's rehearsed in multiple articles before. And I don't mean to brag, but Sadie Doyle, who gets a lot of people in trouble and tries to get people fired,
sometimes succeeds,
right? She did call me a top lady burner, and she wrote about me, and she called me a hack.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm kind of insulted that I was not included in the top lady burner list.
I know.
Well, I mean, come on.
Rania Kalik and I are there, but we can name you.
I'm in the coven.
I know. I think you are. I think you're more than just. You should be. Yeah. I'm
in the Liza Featherstone book.
Yeah, I know you are. Yeah. That was great. And, but I just thought that we would talk a little bit about this masterpiece. some of my favorite parts about it are, because these people are really woke, right, when it comes to identity politics. And some of my favorite parts in the whole thing.
So woke, they don't like poor people. That's like a high
Right. So
level
basically
of woke.
their identity politics consist of identity politics minus class, is what I think. Not to put too fine a point on it, but here's what's really sad is that in this letter, which is called "We Are the Left," an open letter on identity politics to and from the left, and it says we, the undersigned, are in the uncomfortable position of reporting on a problem that we are told does not exist. We ask you to consider a few incidents. And what's amazing is that they give a few incidents. You'd think that if this were such a systemic problem, they'd have more incidents than one in 1968, one in 1973, and one in 2015, and one in 2016. But whatever. This is much more of a kind of emotional, cathartic thing, I think, than
that's kind of
actually
Sadie's MO.
rational thing. And I know I'm going to be called sexist, but whatever. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know when she blocked me from Twitter, but
I'm
I don't
sorry,
know.
you don't get to feel special.
Yeah.
She uses bots. I was hand blocked.
Oh man!
and
Stop bragging. It's really
I'm
unbecoming.
a VIP.
You got
That
a hand
sounds
block from her? Wow.
very artisanal. It's like I was hand blocked. Sorry.
Just to get a sense of how woke these people are, they give an example of Shulamith Firestone, and who was being attacked, verbally attacked, and
By the way, not a fan of the bourgeois feminist, Shulamith Firestone.
yeah, I know. So many people, I'm like, they're. I don't think. Do you think Sylvia Rivera would be happy to be in this?
Sylvia Rivera,
I think she's rolling in her grave.
died cursing, advocate style,
Yeah.
gay politics.
Yeah, I know, and the people who wrote this are hardly fighting against the system. But they quote Ellen Willis, who I really admire, and Ellen Willis said, "If radical men can so easily be provoked into acting like rednecks, what can we expect from others?" Now that's a fine thing to say. I'm just going to say that if we're talking about identity politics, the term redneck.
Not my favorite Ellen Willis moment.
Yeah, I mean,
say that as
this,
a fan.
and this is not at all a critique of her. This is a critique of how unconscious these people are.
Yeah.
Of how to even frame their argument, like
Of their own privilege.
Yes, they use a quote to show how unwoke we are.
Right.
We being the lefties who apparently want to purge them. Maybe, but we don't try to because we can't.
Right.
Leaving
We don't
that
have the
aside. We don't
resources.
exactly.
They own all the things.
Exactly, they're
We can't
projecting.
purge them.
So I like that they quote that quote because it shows you they're not classist at all. They have a very great intersectional critique of class. There's that, and then another one that I really like is they refer to someone. One woman, one of the victims they're speaking for, right? Or survivors, I should say, survivors of this. One woman worked, this is Amani Gandhi.
Gandhi, yeah.
Angry black lady on Twitter. And
Yeah.
they write of her, one woman worked for 7 months on loan modifications. She has been accused over and over of, quote, throwing poor black people out of their homes, end quote. And then they say in parentheses, she is herself a black woman. Because that's identity politics.
Right,
That's
right.
woke. Because you know what black people can't be? Bad to black people. I mean, we all know that, right?
They can't be black.
And do problematic things.
Yeah.
Right,
Right?
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
because obviously, yeah.
And be bourgeois tools.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
Goldman
yeah.
Sachs.
Oh, why don't you mention she's black? Then I get it. She's totally radical and
Yeah.
woke. Sorry, my
Really,
bad.
I think
Yeah.
that's the future we're all looking for when black people are thrown out of their homes, but only by other black
Yes,
people.
you're right. You're right.
Like FUBU oppression.
Yes, FUBU oppression. I like that a lot. Yeah, that's of course everyone. So everyone knows it's for us, by us. It's a brand of clothing that I think now is run by white people.
Probably.
Probably.
But I don't know if anybody still buys FUBU.
I don't know. We
I
live in
see
a
like the
post-FUBU.
toddler lines for it.
Really?
Yeah, I think children are mostly the.
That's adorable.
It is.
But yeah, it's. I mean, I like this because there's some people who apparently couldn't come out as not being part of We Are the Left because they couldn't face the backlash.
Right.
And it reminds
I
me
love
of
this. We are Legion. You just don't know how many of us there are. We can't be obvious about that. By the way, the names on here are like.
Oh yeah, who do we have? Which I just
Who are these people?
I want to share just some thoughts. Well, they are the neoliberals. I think they should call it "We Are the Neoliberals"
Yeah.
instead of "We Are the Left."
Yeah, I mean, there's Sadie. She wrote it. Sarah Kendzior.
All right. But my favorite part is they sign it and they write, those members of our initial organizing coalition who remained anonymous because the cost of being named was just too high. Who's ever been fired for being for praising identity politics and being liberal? Does anyone know?
That's so unpopular right now. There certainly aren't entire, careers built on that.
Right. I mean, all I know is that Matt Bruning has been fired, and he's one of the alleged lefties, right, that they're criticizing.
He's a Bernie bro.
Bernie bro,
bro.
who doesn't have any intersectional critique. And then Emmett Renzen was suspended. He's one of us too. So I would love to see someone actually fired from their side. Not because I wish that on them, but because I don't think it's happened. So if anyone wants to show us a documented case of what they're saying as opposed to the opposite, that would be awesome.
You mean losing their jobs for their convictions?
Yeah, which, I mean, these people are basically the communists. They are like, we are the McCarthyites. Adolf Reed is Joe McCarthy. That's what I say. And speaking of Joe McCarthy, we're so excited. We're going to have our second chunk of the show. We're really excited. We have Josh Fox on the line and Nomiki Konst. Are you there?
We are here.
Hi. How are you?
Hear us okay?
Yes.
Hola.
Hi, hola. How are you guys doing?
We're all right. We're having a hot and muggy New York City day.
Nice. Is that a metaphor for something like the Bernie Sanders movement? It's still hot. It's on fire.
No. I mean, I am a climate change person, but that really is just the weather.
Got it. Okay. Now, you guys both were kind of amazing. And by the way, I'm here, Gabe Pacheco's here, Reggie Johnson, and Amber Lee Frost is here. We've just been talking about the We Are Left movement and Bernie Sanders. So you guys both did amazing work at the DNC, at the Democratic Platform Committee meeting. I watched it. I was moved. Beautiful stuff. How did you not throw chairs? Like, I don't mean to be too forward about it, but yeah.
You want to start?
Okay,
Yeah.
So Josh is very composed. I, on the other hand, got in a fight with Maxine Waters.
You did.
You did?
You got in a vicious, like screaming at each other over the table. I thought that you were going to start throwing things at it.
Do you want to give us a summary of what happened and what you guys achieved and what you didn't achieve and what we're
the Maxine
moving
Waters
forward?
thing, you can find that online.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna we'll have
Stop that.
this will be an extra. We'll put it on the podcast. We're gonna do a more gossipy piece where you
Yes,
tell us
gossip
about
Congressman, that's right.
and like who had good skin and who had bad skin, who needed like to exfoliate.
It was a pretty pasty-looking bunch, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I know.
On the Clinton side.
One
I
guy
know.
looked like Colonel Sanders, and
Oh my God, I know who you're talking about.
you know exactly who we're talking about.
But we're not going to get into ad hominem.
No, that's their side. That's their MO.
dermatological
Right.
insults.
Right. No.
What we are going to do is talk about the things that we actually accomplished. And it's true, at
Fine.
the beginning of this session, it was kind of loopy. Like, we got there, they were clearly stalling. We didn't start the first session. I think it was till like 10 p.m.
10:30.
Donna Brazil at one point came in and was taking drink orders for delegates, like, who wants a Jaeger bomb? We thought, this is a charade. They're stonewalling us. They're trying to make sure that nothing passes. Most of the platform was voted Clinton delegates on one side, Sanders delegates on another,
Right.
very much along those kind of campaign lines. But then Nina Turner came out
Oh my God,
with
stop.
one of the
Kills
Clinton
me.
delegates and said,
Madam Chair, I do accept Sister Mary Kay's amendment to my amendment and am vitally proud that the Democratic Party is affirming that the federal minimum wage should be $15 an hour.
you know, we have a unity position on the fight for $15 an hour, federal minimum wage. We have agreed this is what's going to happen. And that was a moment where we all felt like extraordinarily excited. And so that set the stage for what was to happen later with our environmental amendment. So I had proposed two amendments. One was a complete ban on fracking all throughout the United States.
Because, as you said, there's no place in the revolution for fracking.
There is a political revolution going on in this country. And fracking has no place in it.
Well, that was my first line, and I campaigned my heart out for this amendment, the anti-fracking amendment, on a national scale. Pretty sure that we weren't going to make that. Phil McKibben and myself of 350.org, the great environmental leader, as well as Ben Jealous, the former head of the NAACP, and Deborah Parker and Jane Klebb from Bolton, Nebraska. We were in that back room, and there is a back room. We were negotiating an amendment that was kind of an omnibus climate change and fracking amendment that I think was everything that we could have hoped for to achieve. In many ways, as a whole, more important than a fracking ban, and more important than a fracking moratorium in the moment. Because what we know of Democratic national policy right now is that they support fracking and they support a transition to fracked gas power plants across America. So Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama's plan is to build 300 new fracked gas power plants. That would ensure that America gets fracked and fracked hard for the next 40 years. That means 2 million
Hardcore
new
fracking
wells. That means, drilling America into Swiss cheese. Now, if you build those frack gas power plants, you're essentially doing them because someone told you at one point in time, I wonder who, it was the natural gas industry, I'm not going to lie, that frack gas was better than coal for the climate. And unfortunately, the Democrats believed them, even though they were lying, and they weren't telling the whole story. So as we know now, because of the methane leaks that are incurred by this infrastructure and the burning of the gas itself, actually fracked gas power plants wind up being a greater emissions profile than even coal. Okay, so Barack Obama's clean power plan sends us out of the frying pan and into the fire, out of the coal hell and into the frack gas.
Right.
I don't know.
No pun intended.
More metaphors.
Explosion, yeah.
So it was very important for me that the Democrats in their platform oppose these frack gas power plants and say, no, we need a transition to actual renewable energy, the wind and the sun. So Bill McKibben and I, after many hours of negotiations, we did get language back and forth with the Clinton delegates that said,
Democrats believe that carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases should be priced to reflect their negative externalities and to accelerate the transition to a clean energy economy and help meet our climate goals. Democrats believe that climate change is too important to wait for climate deniers and defeatists in Congress to start listening to science and support using every tool available to reduce emissions now. We will streamline federal permitting to accelerate the construction of new transmission lines to get low-cost renewable energy to market and incentivize wind, solar, and other renewable energy over the development of new natural gas power plants. We support President Obama's decision to reject the Keystone XL pipeline. As we continue working to reduce carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gas emissions, we must ensure federal actions don't significantly exacerbate global warming. We support a comprehensive approach that ensures all federal decisions going forward contribute to solving, not significantly exacerbating climate change. Democrats believe that our commitment to meeting the climate challenge must also be reflected in the infrastructure investments we make. We need to make our existing infrastructure safer and cleaner and build the new infrastructure necessary to power our clean energy future. To create good-paying middle-class jobs that can't be outsourced, Democrats support high labor standards in clean energy infrastructure and the right to form or join a union, whether in renewable power or advanced vehicle manufacturing. During the clean energy transition, we will ensure landowners, communities of color, and tribal nations are at the table.
We want a price on carbon. We want a price on methane. We want the Keystone XL standard to be put on every single federal energy project, which means if it's not good for the climate, the federal government should not pass it. We got a clause in there that said we were going to favor solar and wind over fracked gas power plants, which is a 180-degree turn for the Democrats. And we got a provision that said that communities, people of color, and native tribes had to have a seat at the table during these federal...
And that was a last-minute thing.
Wow.
Well, that was very important to me, and no one was paying attention to me until Jane Klebb from Bolton, Nebraska backed it up. Fractivists know well that communities have to be consulted.
I have to say, on both sides, were lacking because a lot of people who work in politics don't do this. Josh went into the room, was talking to the operatives, right, about strategy, and then he would go out of the room and call and email and talk to the people that he knew were invested in the movement but weren't in the room. And that's when you asked Jane Klebb to say, what do you think? And she had this beautiful line, and it was poetic and intuitive, and it was just great. And P.S., more women needed to be in those operative rooms.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
Yes.
They were too male-dominated, and that was clear. There was a historic unity amendment. Now, and to be honest, this was not a compromise. This was a straight-out victory. And it was because of the strength of organizing. The Clinton campaign was terrified that 100,000 fractivists were going to show up in Philadelphia and disrupt things. And they knew that they had to give us what we wanted, or else the climate movement and the fracking movement were never going to go along with them. And this was what Bill and I ended up writing with Jane Klebb and these other people who are phenomenal community leaders. And so after we lost the vote on the fracking ban, and I gave, probably the most blistering speech on fracking in 5 minutes I've ever done in my life, I was able to go out there and announce the good news. Well, here's the good news, environmental movement. We got stuff that was more important. This frack gas power plant thing and this federal infrastructure standard, that cuts the legs out of the future of the natural gas industry. If this were to be Democratic policy, that would absolutely change 100% the future of American energy. And that's the standard now that they have in their platform and that we as a movement have to hold them to.
And right before he did that, the First Amendment, that the ban fracking amendment that we lost, the delegation, the Bernie Sanders delegation, and the supporters who are on the outside observing erupted. It became a rally.
This is what happens when you organize. This is what happens when you never say die. This presidential campaign is unlike anything that's happened in our history. We are a coming together of so many aspects of this movement. The climate movement, the anti-fracking movement being just a piece of this, and I'll let the people behind me speak to the rest of it. But the fact is, that ends with our communities will be at the table when these decisions are made, and the federal government is held to the standard of the Keystone XL pipeline, which is that any project that exacerbates climate change will not go forward, and that we will favor renewable energy instead of natural gas power plants. That is a huge victory for people. It is a huge victory for organizing. It is a huge victory for our movement. I want to say thank you one more time to this extraordinary leadership of Bernie Sanders. The man brought us here today. We came together and we won this.
Excuse me. My name is Cornel West. And we must both applaud the coming together. But at the same time, we've got to keep the focus on the gap between declaration and execution. It's a beautiful thing to be able to come together and put it on paper. But I also want to see the practice. And that's precisely why, no matter how much noise you make, it's not about the noise now, y'all. It's about your integrity. It's about your honesty. It's about your longevity. And what that means then is that we still have to have an inside-outside strategy. We need a movement in the streets willing to go to jail to make sure elites are accountable. And then we bring the pressure to bear on the inside to create some space for those who are elected with integrity can respond to those in the streets. That's how you keep democracy alive. That's why I like it.
He basically had a rally in the middle of this platform committee hearing that's usually run by a bunch of Democratic hacks.
Well, the thing that was interesting about the Sanders delegation is that Bernie sent a lot of heavy hitters down to do this. And Clinton delegation seemed to be a lot of, bundlers, people who are rewarded with a seat on the platform committee because they've raised a lot of money. There weren't a lot of really sophisticated. There were some. There were some. Definitely people who had
Randy
some.
Weingarten, Ilsa Hogue, union leaders.
Definitely some people with some gravitas. But we had Nina Turner Nomiki, who's amazing as a speaker. Bill McKibben, Ben Jealous. You have people there who were real leaders in their own right, going down there to do battle and hammer out this platform. And I think we got a lot out of it. We won the vote on decriminalization of marijuana by one
I know.
vote.
That
It
was
was
crazy.
truly like watching the end of a basketball game where somebody wins by 1 point. And
I
it
have
was
to mention
incredible.
something about that. The guy who, right after we won on one vote, a man named Mark Pryor.
Oh,
who
we
ran-
talked about him. We love him because of his healthcare position. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Mark Pryor, you like love him, or you
but-
just love like the fact
well,
that he's
I love that he's like, you know what? We could insure 30 million people, but I'd rather not offend Obama.
right.
So-
And by offend Obama, we mean like, hey, I've been working with the Clintons for 35 years in Arkansas, and I'm just one of his hacks.
Oh no, my theory is that he feels bad because I'm sure he engaged in race baiting and Muslim baiting of Obama in 2008 with the Clintons. He feels bad, and now we all have to pay the price of not having health insurance so he can work through it.
He's like the epitome of the worst person in DLC. Like
Yeah.
like think of the 80s and the 90s when the DLC originated. He was like the low bottom feeder of the DLC, and this is the moment that he has to shine, and the moment that he could step out and show that he was loyal to the Clintons was the moment we had a one vote difference, and he could step up and say, we need a revote because not everybody had their clickers. There was a clicker problem.
Isn't he embarrassed? I thought that the Clintons would be embarrassed to have people say on their behalf that
embarrassed.
Okay, you're right. I thought it would be not good PR for people to say on their behalf that they're against having marijuana on the list
But they never inhaled, you know.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale, and never tried it again.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. So they don't. Yeah, they don't. They have no skin in the game.
And I don't think they've exhaled since then, actually.
Yeah, they're still holding it. That's why they have sometimes those frozen, awkward expressions. At
Yeah,
least Hillary
it's a
does.
little. I feel that there's a breathing problem.
Yes.
But
Which
just
is
a
why they
general-
don't care about the
Breathing
fracking.
involves you're interacting with your environment and the rest of the world. You're taking things from the outside into yourself,
Right.
and you're taking things outside of yourself and putting them in the world.
Actually, a perfect example of this is at the end of, so after Josh had this unity vote, after we had the $15 minimum wage unity vote, after essentially 3 days of voting until 1 a.m., 2 a.m., really late nights, Josh and I were exhausted, and we're some of the youngest members of the delegation, and I don't know how some of these people stayed up and continued to vote passionately, or
Because
in
Donna
some
Brazil
cases,
was hooking
just
them up.
like, yeah, but right before we ended, something crazy happened, and you may have heard about this. The Hillary delegation, Ilsa Hogue, the head of NARAL, and Brandy Weingarten, the head of UFT, got up and proposed this amendment 15 minutes. It was proposed 15 minutes before they proposed it, and Jeff Weaver actually agreed to it, we later learned. And that was to take out the words Democratic from the entire platform we just deliberated and put in Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, that was like again, no embarrassment, like just for
No,
public.
this was a revolt in the room.
I saw it. It was deplorable. I'm sorry. I like abortion. I'm more than pro-choice. I'm also like teachers, but I could not believe what I was seeing.
We ended up killing the amendment. I think that's
Yes.
really important to know.
Yeah.
We
I'll
rushed for it.
play that,
Actually,
yeah.
I have to give credit to Ilsa and Randy. They brought me in the circle. They kicked out all the men.
Nice.
They realized it was an issue. I mean, there were two men shouting, ready to punch each other out next to
Right.
us. And Ilsa gets up. She goes, "Get the frack out of the way."
Oh, that
This
is
up
cute.
to us.
That's
And
good.
it was this
I like it.
amazing
That is
moment
nice,
where we
yeah.
just said, "We're killing the bill."
This environmental amendment was something for the ages, and I didn't think, that we were going to get that. And I couldn't believe that we'd actually moved the Clinton delegation to do anything.
Right.
I mean, these people are famous for not compromising, and I have to say that it did move me, and it does make sense to me what Bernie Sanders is doing right now. I do think that Bernie Sanders is out there, and he is finding a way for this all to change, in spite of the fact that we have one of the most stubborn and difficult campaigns to deal with probably in history. The Clinton campaign are not
accommodating at all. They don't allow
So
real
what's going
negotiation.
to happen moving forward? Speaking of which, what's going to happen to the DNC, and what are we going to do after that?
Moving forward, I got to say one thing.
We have 2 minutes, so
We
you
have
have to
so
lay
much
out the
leverage.
entire plan in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
We have so much leverage right now. We can't forget what leverage and what growth we've had. We infiltrated the platform committee. We kicked out a bunch of hacks, and we took over half of the platform committee. We changed the platform. It's only the beginning. And it's going to be much easier for us as movement leaders to influence, as much as we hate to say it, Hillary Clinton, than it is Donald Trump, who won't even give us a seat at the table. And it is on us now. We can't look to higher-ups. We can't look to parties. We can't look to Jill Stein or Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or Gary Johnson to move this forward. It is us. Organize. We have to organize.
Look, everyone at WBAI knows what it was like to deal with the Iraq War.
Right.
I cannot at this moment say, let's go and work with Jill Stein at the Green Party. I think that is absolutely inappropriate right now. Bernie Sanders is he hasn't suspended his campaign. He is going on tour around this country to campaign with Hillary Clinton and for our agenda that has sort of implanted itself inside the Clinton campaign. And he has done a really good job of implanting that agenda. And so have we. We have fought at the Democratic platform level to reform the Democratic Party. I don't think the Greens have any kind of organization that can win right now.
On the ground.
The only thing, I think what we have right now is the unfortunate triumvirate of a neo-fascist, a neoliberal, and a neo-Naderite. And all the neo-Naderites can do is help elect the neo-fascist. They cannot possibly win. And this is the problem. I think as a movement, however, we have to keep our power. We cannot endorse Hillary Clinton. She needs to come to us. She needs to work with us. She needs to work for our vote. And if she doesn't work for our vote, there is no way that Naomi or I or anyone else can control where they're going. The truth of the matter is that this is not about candidates anymore. This is about our agenda. We fought like crazy to stop the TPP at the platform level. We fought like crazy for single-payer health care. We fought like crazy for a fracking ban. We fought for repair and peace in Gaza. And these are the things that we're fighting for. We fought to expand Social Security benefits for seniors who don't have enough money to afford more than one meal a day. These are the things and we fought for campaign finance reform. We fought against the revolving door. These are issues that are not going away, and we need to.
My name is Nomiki Konst, and I'm from New York. I think this amendment is crucial for the Democratic Party platform because it sets the precedent for things like overturning Citizens United, allowing lobbyists back into the DNC, which we once banned, something that President Obama campaigned against and we are now doing again. We are setting the precedent. Right now, this platform is being labeled as progressive. There are many people in this audience back there who do not agree with that, because the language has been weak, and it's code. And it's code because this is a living platform for the Wall Street lobbyists who are now owning our party. We are no longer the social progressives, the FDR progressives. We are the Wall Street progressives. And if we want to stand up against Citizens United like we are all campaigning on, this is what we need to pass. This needs to be all over our platform. And if every single person in here votes for it, you're a Democrat. If one person votes against it, you're not a Democrat.
That's
All right.
Hang on.
All right.
And if you can make an argument as to why we shouldn't agree with this, I would love to hear that, because right now I'm not hearing that.
Okay, thank you.
And we need to have progress on those issues, and that's what we need to hear from the Clinton campaign.
Okay, and anything concrete before the DNC or that you're demanding?
Three really important things.
Okay.
Number one, Josh is going to be screening his film and doing a rally. He will be following up with that. He'll be tweeting out the locations for that.
Okay.
Two, Shailene Woodley, actress Shailene Woodley, one of our great surrogates, is organizing a caravan, several caravans to the DNC. It's called Up to Us. I think it's uptous.net.
Okay. Uptous.net. Check it out. It's going to be awesome.
And number three, I'm organizing an effort. It's more about the rules of the Democratic Committee, because I think we have a lot of leverage right now to end superdelegates. Go to reformthednc.com. Sign up. We'll be sending you some information really soon. This is something that both Hillary supporters and Bernie supporters agree on, and it's just the first step towards a series of reforms the Democratic Party needs to undergo.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much, and we will link to those sites, and thanks for the encouragement, and we'd love to have you back telling us what's happening next, because you guys have great you have a great thing going on. You got one foot in the street, one foot in the system, which we
I
need.
love it.
It's good, right?
Yes, that's what we want, the inside game and the outside.
Yes, buy Gameable. Buy Gameable. Thanks, guys, so much. Josh Fox, Noah McKee-Cons, and Amber Lee Frost. And we will see you next week. And I'm going to be at the RNC, so hopefully we'll have some live votes. Oh, yay. Awesome. See you guys there. And see you there, Noah McKee. And we love you. See you next week.